but early this morning, the news dropped that we obviously have to cover to start with today of Hulk Hogan passing away. Which is one of those things that's it's definitely sad, and there's a element of surprise, I guess, when anyone passes away, but it's one of those situations where, I mean, I really wasn't that when I saw it, it was more just like, yeah, I mean, he hadn't been in good health and
we just heard two different sides of everything.
Right. That's the other thing.
One guy says he's fine, the other guy says he's on the deathbed.
Right.
And they both, I mean, Jimmy Hart was probably right in a weird sort of way, because he probably took, after that one surgery, I'm sure he was better, but he had a heart attack.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's what it seems like. It just kind of, and it's one of those things too, where we see with a lot of different people in different situations where once it takes that turn, like it's a matter of hours to days at some points. It's just kind of unfortunately how it is in situations like that, especially when you have, we saw him, we're not trying, to make fun of it or anything, but when he came out on Raw for the Netflix opening and whatever happened, but he just didn't look good. Like he didn't even go down the ramp or towards the ring because they knew like he couldn't get into it, he was where he was. And it's just,
the heart attack doesn't give a crap how old you are.
Right, exactly. And it's one of those situations too. But we've got to at least talk about him to a point of just, it's one of those situations where would we be where we are today without him? Absolutely not. The wrestling would probably still be around and there'd be waste of it, and it might have become a global thing eventually, but when and where and how it did was all strictly because of Hulk Hogan. He was the first professional wrestler on Sports Illustrated, for crying out loud. Like, this is when I found out this happened, I knew we were going to talk about it. This is the first picture I went and looked for, because this is one of those things that that really did transcend into the mainstream at that point. Sports Illustrated was the biggest sports magazine in the world at that time, and this is right before WrestleMania 1. You look at the date, April 29th, 1985, or is it right after? I think it might be right after. I think it was, I'm not sure. But either way, it's right around that time frame. Yeah, I think it is after. I realized that now. I'm like, yeah, because they did it at the end of March. I'm thinking my time frame's off. But yeah, he was a massive, massive star from, winning his first title against the Iron Sheik. I love how there's the Sheik. I guess that's Sergeant Slaughter in that poster there that kid has. I just like these old school pictures of the fans in there and how close they were in them. Look how close they are into him at that point. Yeah. It was just a different world
where they had that little walkway. So
yeah. I missed that.
Has been changed, but
I missed that from the old. They even had it. I feel like the last thing I remember them doing at that old entrance was the Royal Rumble in 2008 when John Cena came back at number 30 and he was in that spot and they opened because I always liked that little Rumble entrance when the doors would open, they'd run out. Like MSG was the old school MSG. Like,
yep.
That's what we grew up on. But Hogan.
I'm sorry,
you're good. You're good.
I had to think about it because I knew that I saw him live once, and I couldn't think of when. Then I started going through ticket stubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he won the title in January of '84.
Right.
I saw him in Buffalo October 2nd, 1985.
Okay.
And he was the champ at that time, and he was going against the Iron Sheik again. That's when Sheik came back to fight for his title again the second time.
Okay.
So to give you an idea, because I've been to both of these, to give you an idea how loud the crowd was. Hulk gets introduced. It's loud. Okay.
Right.
I also went to a WWE thing, Raw at Buffalo in a different area. Different stadium, but the same thing, same city.
Right. I get you.
And when The Rock came out, same. Hogan's response and The Rock's response were equal part. And this is Prime Rock and Prime Hogan, so they were equal.
Okay, that makes sense.
I couldn't talk to the person next to me.
Yes, no, I've seen. Yep, I was at shows. I was at a show in September of 2000 at a Raw when Rock came out. Same kind of situation where, I was next to my buddy and I can remember like both of us just being shook because that was the first show we've been at in person. And you were just like, I can't believe it's that loud. So I know exactly that pop where you can't talk to the person.
Yeah, that was for Hogan when he got there in Buffalo that day. And it was a regular house show.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how that works out and how that there's so many that are there's not so many, but there's certain people that have those exact moments. Like, you know, you hear it too. I don't think I know I never saw Austin in that prime window of like, 97 to 2000 or whatever. But when you hear those pops on TV, they're similar to it. But I mean, there's a reason why Hogan was Hogan. I mean, for my
it starts at
entire
WrestleMania 1, Mr. T.
Yep.
That sets the tone. Then you get WrestleMania 2, which was okay. Then this one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say WrestleMania 2 is like the bad sequel, but they saved it with the third and the trilogy for it. It's like the reverse of Star Wars, where the sequel's the best one for everybody. But I feel like this image is every time when they had those old school openings where they would run through the highlights and the world is watching and that kind of stuff, but you always had this iconic shot. Because I mean, no matter how many people they had in the Pontiac Silverdome, whether it was 73,000 or 93,000, I don't care. That place was packed and they were here for this match.
Yeah, it's one of those that's where he pulled 32 muscles in his back. Right here.
Yeah, and RJ weighed 600 pounds, and he died right after. Yeah, that's always that's certain lies like I can get. And when I'm not trying to badmouth, we won't go into all that here today for Hogan because
they're classic. They're all good.
But the one where he says where like he dies, like we can see his death
in his
like,
world. He died the next day.
Well, I guess when you're traveling, when you've got 400 days in your year, maybe the time was different. They didn't have matches a couple of months later and then go through from that. But yeah, I mean, those were iconic moments. And then you've got the whole thing where he goes over to WCW, and it's not a failure at the beginning, like it's a success at the beginning, but people got sick of it pretty quickly in the sense of, it
was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, people try to, when they tell the stories now of him turning, it was like, and I mean, it was a big shock, but people act like he was at his peak, but people were pretty much done.
That was down, dude.
Oh yeah.
The audience was going down. I was getting bored. I wasn't even watching it. I'm like,
he'd been away for a while too. Yeah.
I'll go over to WWF and watch this for a while.
Yeah. Until he comes in and does the NWO turn. And I still love that he's in the cowboy boots in this one too, by the way. But I mean, I can remember, I feel like the statute of limitations is long enough. This was, there was a situation where we were able to get one of those dark colored square, box like structures that you could get on top of your television and receive pay-per-views. And this was, I still like, I don't know if it's the actual truth, but I feel like, it's like Cody and Dusty always said, print the legend. It's better. I feel like the first pay-per-view we were able to get on that was this one. This is the first one that I remember. And I do remember it being a shock just because you didn't think he would do it. You thought he was just going to ride out
because he rolls down the aisle. He comes walking down the aisle and you're like, okay, well, here comes Hulk to save the day.
Exactly. And he's in the red and yellow and he's pointing and then he drops the leg on Macho and and you just wouldn't expect him to be because they were the epitome of the cool guys, the Outsiders, Nash and Hall. Like you didn't think they were going to team up with the old Dusty Hogan, who was still, let me tell you something, brother. And let me tell you what, Hulkamania is going to run wild on you, dude. That's why, those NWO promos, they got so much praise for being like choppy and black and white and cool, but Nash and Hall will tell you like they had to do it because Hogan would break into that stuff almost every time. So they had to cut it and like say this, okay, and say that. It's almost like the stories of Eazy-E that you hear of rapping in that first, his first ever hit. Like he had to do each line and then stop, each line and then stop. And that's kind of how Hogan was because he was so ingrained in the, well, let me tell you, Mean Gene.
Take your vitamins.
Yeah, say your prayers and hit your poses, dude, and all those Hulkamaniacs. But
that was a long time he was doing that. Makes sense.
It was. I mean, literally, if it was, he won the belt like you said, 1984, and this is 1996, and they weren't working 400 days a year, but he was working, 250 to 300. So it was ingrained in who he was, but it worked. And I mean, it did spark WCW getting 83 weeks of, beating WWF back then and turning to making honestly, it is what sparks the Attitude Era because they had to make changes. But I mean, he then, wrestled Goldberg and did the Hollywood Hogan stuff. I love this picture just because we still have Charles Robinson in there. I had to get this when I was getting pictures of this match. I'm like, Robinson's the referee. I've got to get him in there.
No,
shout out to him and his broken rib that he got. I feel like that broken rib is probably like it's a storyline so he can get some vacation time and time off, because, or maybe it is broken. That's the only way he'll
watch
take
that
time
spear
off.
again. It's broken.
Okay, all right, that's a fair point. And that's probably the only way he would take a vacation, from what it seems. The man still builds and takes down the ring, but I mean, it was an illustrious career. And then for the big moment, I mean, in my opinion, the greatest WrestleMania match of all time is Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. I mean, if you haven't seen that match, go out of your way to watch it. It's the only it's the only Hogan match that I have on my list of matches that I've got. Even if I gave me 20 to 30 more, probably the only one that I would have that was really important, and because this match is just incredible. And it's not even so much what they do. I mean, the moves that they do in the spots, it gets to be a fun physical match, but just that opening of the crowd just being, I mean, incredible. Like, that's just, it's one of
Toronto was on fire.
Yeah, no, they really were. And the two of that, and it's also where you have two guys who get it, two guys who understand, hey, we're going to sit here for a minute and just go breathe this, and this, they both looking back and forth. I mean, it's just, it's, if it wasn't 108 degrees outside right now, I'd probably have chills up and down my arm thinking about this, because it's that awesome and that amazing. But yeah, it's pretty hot here in the desert. But I mean, that comeback that he had, and then he has to go home and get his red and yellow gear because this immediately turned him babyface, and the Outsiders turned against him and killed the NWO. And I mean, it's just, it's an incredible career and a pretty insane life that he had and led. But I mean, we had to at least talk about it. And
yeah, if you get rid of the actual person,
right, just Hulk Hogan, not Terry Bollea. Yes, yeah. Good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it, because it's Terry Bollea who didn't want to unionize and piss off Ventura, and it's Terry Bollea who was on that Bubba the Lunchbudge video, and Terry Bollea.
Hulk Hogan had a 9-inch member. Terry Bollea did not.
Yes, yeah,
that was actually said, folks.
He did. No, because was that on Stern that he said that, because I've seen the interview.
Court of law.
Oh, was that?
He said it during the trial.
Shit, you're right. Oh fuck, you're right. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it's true though, I mean, Hulk Hogan was the persona. Terry Bollea is the man. And, that's, and it's a sad day in the sense when you lose anybody with it, but it's a legend in the business. And like I said, not a surprising situation, but one of those situations that is, I mean, if you have a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, he's got to be on it, whether you like his style or not. But if you don't like what you saw of him in WWF, watch that stuff that he did in Japan. Like, there are matches that he did in Japan. He actually could wrestle, but he knew what he had to do to get over and make it work. And also, they were wrestling literally every single night, pretty much, for under Vince.
Yeah,
running 3 shows a night in those towns.
You know what we forgot to mention?
What do we get? Yeah,
Rocky 3.
Oh gosh. Thunder Lips,
because that's when it turned mainstream. That's when it started, because Vince Sr. wouldn't let him go to do the movie. Remember, he walked out,
and that's why he went back to AWA. Yeah, because Vern would, but then Vern wouldn't put the title on him. It's one of those things where, and you talk about it sometimes in wrestling now, where they hold off to give the guy the title. And I know a lot of people, like, the best example recently is Cody. Everybody thought he was going to win at 39. And honestly, I did too, literally until like the day before. And then I really started thinking about it. I'm like, it's too soon. He really has it because of the injury. And he's got to have the loss to make the win so much more important and so much better, but bringing that back to Hogan, Vern just kept pushing that off to the point where the fans got frustrated with it, where it's like they're never going to put it on him, and he got more frustrated and left. And that's why one of those things. He
came back from that was a #1 movie,
right? Yeah,
and
exactly.
He comes back and he's on top of the world, and then we don't give him the belt.
And then
stupid.
And they did the Dusty finish, and that's it's one of those things I feel like people, anytime they see an interference or a schmoz finish, like, oh, it's a Dusty finish. Like, no. A Dusty finish is what they would do with Hogan, where he would win and be holding the belt, But then, oh no, he lost. He didn't win because the referee called a DQ here, or this happened. He was over the rope, or he went over the top, or whatever. So then he loses, so he doesn't actually win. Like that's, and that's what they did to him. I feel like it was 3 times in a row at the big shows of AWA, and that's where the fans just got over it. I'm pretty sure it was Bockwinkel, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, and I'm, I could look it all up, but I'd rather if I'm wrong, please someone correct me in the comments. If I'm right, someone let me know in the comments. It's more fun that way. But I just know that that's why he knew he wasn't going to get where he wanted to go get over into get the title at AWA. And then Vince takes over WWF to back in 1982. And hey, who comes over? And he comes over. And then what's he over for, like 3 weeks? He rejoins WWF, and Vince has him beat Iron Sheik, and off to the races, brother. Hulkamania ran wild, dude.
Yeah, all starts some Thunder Lips.
Ooh. Yeah, it's true. It really is. It's a very valid point. And I mean,
people don't pay attention to how important that movie actually was for him, but that's the whole launching point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, so it's December 27th, 1983. He returns, and like January 23rd, he beats Sheiky Baby and gets the title. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense of where, and that's why Vince will talk about too. It's like he had a plan, but it's one of those situations where they needed each other. It's almost like the Tom Brady and Belichick comparison. It's like, who's better? Who could have done with that? You had to have both there to make it work. You had to have the right promoter who had the right vision, but he needed the right guy. Like maybe Dusty Rhodes could have worked out in that situation. Maybe somebody else could have possibly, but
nope.
Most likely, yeah, exactly. You just, you don't know for sure, but this worked, and there's a reason why. And, there's a reason why he was the first wrestler to host Saturday Night Live, to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was on multitudes of TV shows, and he only choked out and knocked out one of the hosts. So yeah, it's a pretty good ratio. It's a pretty good number. Shout out to Richard Belzer, rest in peace. Shea Hogan.
Now we can see him up there.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Hey, you feel like there's you got some good rematches with Roddy and Sheiky Baby and Savage upstairs. That should be there should be some good promotion there. Hey, maybe Vince Sr. will actually give him the belt this time. Who knows? Probably not.